In a university dormitory in East China, a young man with a flat head was silently lighting a burning cigarette, staring at the computer monitor in front of him, stunned. On the fluorescent monitor, this piece of software with seemingly 50 cents worth of special effects was being displayed. The King of War system. Except for a name, there is an accept/reject button, and nothing else. Think about whether you have not transmigrated, and secondly, you have not been reborn. Yeching felt that the pain was too painful. After 20 years of ordinary life, he really didn't have any idea of standing out in his heart? That's obviously not possible. After finally seeing a golden finger-like a system appear in his life, before he had time to get excited, he was poured cold water by this special effect. She was stunned for a moment, and finished smoking the cigarette in her hand. Move the mouse and click on the accept button. Winning the clubhouse tender model, losing to work in the sea. Oh, no, it doesn't seem to be that serious. Even if I was caught by a domestic page game, I believe that with my experience as a Leopard Head Zero Charge player for so many years, I shouldn't be able to fool me. Congratulations on the successful binding of the host, the system is being activated. Hearing the voice that seemed to come directly from his mind, Yeching couldn't help rubbing his eyes. Looking at the desktop that was restored to its original state on the computer, then look at the headphones placed aside. This sound. What the hell? Take off. The hand holding the cigarette trembled slightly. From the $10 golden leaf on the table, he took out one again. After several fires, the cigarette was lit. With the entrance of nicotine, the excitement eased slightly. Then there are unstoppable fantasies and why. What to become the CEO, marry buy fume and the like. The aspirations of contemporary stinky college students are so simple, unpretentious, and boring. The King of War system has been successfully activated. The voice that sounded directly in his brain interrupted Yeching's wild thoughts. Next, is a panel projected directly on the retina. The King of War system is successfully activated. Yeching rank, trainee partner, possession, purchase and sale of basic light weapons, purchase and sale of basic individual equipment, purchase and sale of basic cold weapons. Remarks: the purchase authority includes drawings and physical objects. For the specific price, please refer to the supply panel. No system wizard, no personal data. The most annoying thing is that behind this thing, there is actually a statistic. Looking at the system panel in front of him that looked like some company's background management software, Yeching fell silent again. This, oh no, Goldfinger, it's a bit too crude. All right, hang on the wall in seconds. That's it. Yeching slapped himself and realized that the pain was still painful, and Yeching suddenly wanted to cry. What is the use of this system? Ding, you have a novice gift package that you haven't received yet. Do you want to receive it? Get it? Looking at the message bar, the prompt popped up suddenly. Yeching regained a little hope. It's okay, it's okay. I just said, how could it be possible to start with a whiteboard on the wall? It must be an illusion. Startup capital, $1 million has been received. It's still the system prompt that cherishes words like gold. Yeching said that he's used to it. After seeing this notification, I took out my mobile phone as soon as possible. Waiting for the balance change reminder text message from the bank. 1 minute has passed, 2 minutes have passed, 3 minutes have passed. Looking at the cell phone that didn't even make a sound, Yeching was embarrassed again. Not believing in evil, he recharged 2 pieces of Ocean to Alipay. Then a ding-dong sounded, and a short message showing the balance quickly appeared in the phone. I'm so afraid that I didn't get a fake system. How can a pie fall from the sky? Hey, nothing to lose anyway, so be it. Yeching, who was laughing at himself for not looking good and thinking that he was pretty, looked at the time while preparing to throw this little episode aside. The sons in the dormitory should also be finishing get out of class soon. Sons. Bring back a kebab rice for your dear dad, and add a chicken leg by the way. After sending WeChat in the dormitory group, Yeching threw the phone aside. It should be next, the group will definitely quarrel about the issue of seniority. With this skill, wouldn't he be fragrant in another game? Anyway, sons, the meals that should be brought will always be brought. Ding, do you want to start the novice guide? Just as Yeching was about to start the game, a reminder from the pit system sounded in his mind. Yes, yes, yes. Let me see, what's the use of your stuff? Although I feel that my system is a bit fake, this kind of effect that can directly present images and sounds in people's minds is really not something that ordinary software can do. It would be unrealistic to say that there is no extravagant hope for such a life hack of the system. Yeching said that she is so vulgar. So, greedy for money, lustful, and upright. Start the novice guide and release the novice task 1, within 30 days, have a store of your own, and the business scope must include the category of system open permissions. Completion reward, virtual training ground authority, failure penalty, loss of trainee partner qualification. After listening to this emotionless reminder, Yeching made a head start. Let's play the game. Anyway, people can't die, just relying on the 5,000 oceans in his balance. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com shop? I want to eat shit. Yeching, who had already decided in her heart that the mission had failed, turned her head and forgot about it, and continued to live her simple but happy life in a fat house. It wasn't until a phone call 3 days later that Yeching, who was playing games in the dormitory, jumped up and almost hit the top of the bed with his head. The content of the call is also very simple: the courier has arrived. But after thinking about it, I haven't shopped online recently, so who will send me the courier? The almost forgotten system appeared in Yeching's mind. No, no, no. Are all payments made in cash now? Received a thin paper document bag from Brother Shunfeng, although it couldn't possibly be filled with US dollars. But the bank logo on the document bag made Yeching's heart beat faster. After unpacking, there was a bank card with Visa and UnionPay logos lying quietly inside. And a welcome speech from the bank welcoming its dual currency card customers. Stuffing the piece of paper with the bank's speech in his pocket, he took out the speed of a 100 meter sprint and rushed out of the school gate. With trepidation, insert the bank card into the ATM machine, enter the password, and select the dual currency account balance inquiry. Looking at the progress bar displayed on the ATM, Yeching subconsciously took out a cigarette. After thinking about it, after all, in public, he stuffed the cigarette case into his pocket again. After such a toss, the progress bar is also read. Looking at the string of zeros behind the 1 on the account, and the dollar at the end, Yeching's breathing suddenly became rapid. The stimulus of money is one thing, and another thing. Brother, are you the system? You are hanging on the wall. Do you follow the rules like this? Does it really fit your personality as a system boss? Sitting outside the Daddy Star coffee shop outside the school gate, a cup of cappuccino and a packet of tea were placed on the table in front of Yeching. The $1 million lying in the dual currency card really gave people the confidence to expand. Just these foreign objects could not dispel Yeching's annoyance at the moment. While browsing the online profiles of major cities in the United States, Yeching pondered. As the name suggests, this system is basically a system for selling arms and supplies. Obviously, this store cannot be opened in China. And America, on the other side of the ocean, has naturally become Yeching's first choice. After tasting the sweetness given by the system, Yeching couldn't ignore the novice task that had been lying in his mind for 3 days. There are less than 26 days left before the task deadline. Fortunately, my family is fairly well off. I just went on a trip to the United States a few days ago, and my visa has not yet expired. Otherwise, I don't need to think about these now, only Gigi is waiting for me. Although there was no clear requirement for the location of the store in the system task, Yeching did not dare to be sloppy. If this task goes well, then almost all of your future life will be bound to this system. In the system, the word selling is very obvious, which also reminds Yeqing of the importance of the market. In the United States, where the gun culture is the strongest, or where the market demand is high, we have to say Texas. Where a large number of farmers gather, almost every household needs a gun to protect themselves and their farmland from wild boars. But the problem is also obvious, that is, the crowd is too scattered. The radiation range of a store is always limited. In addition, because of this particularity, the per capita gun ownership in Texas is still quite high. This also means that the market demand is not that great. Or, in this era, it entered the civilian gun market in the United States. The demand is basically fixed, and it is very difficult to make big profits. Fortunately, I still have a system. Yeqing rubbed her head with a headache. She was a fan of the army at best, and she was a fake. The guy who has never played CS before suddenly wants to make himself jump to sell guns and ammunition. This span is really not very large. Think about it, in addition to choosing a location, you have to go through the formalities for suspension of study at the school. You have to give your family a reasonable explanation. Thinking about these things, Yeqing is one big head and too big. The city profile on the computer can't stand anymore. Anyway, the market environment is similar. In theory, parents must be present for school suspension, but college students are adults after all. Yeqing worked hard, and it took a full day to grind through the head of the department and get the suspension certificate. Then it was time to book a ticket to go home. On the way, Yeqing also thought of a reason. Yeqing told her family about the popular I Have a Friend series on the internet. When I was traveling in the United States some time ago, I met a friend who was also a college student. They do projects over there and invite themselves to participate. Really speaking, this reason is full of loopholes. But the consistent image of a good baby can still have a lot of trust in dealing with parents. Yeqing said goodbye to her family and classmates. Finally, 5 days later, I set foot on a flight to Los Angeles, America. As for why I chose this place, in addition to the feeling that it is the second largest city in the United States and the prototype of 3 men and 1 dog, the most crucial point is that it is on the west coast of the United States. This also means that half a day can be saved. When Yeqing came out of Los Angeles International Airport, the countdown in the system task also reached 21 days. And, it will soon become 20 days. Yeqing took a deep breath before she could take a look at this star-studded city. While thanking the convenient service facilities of the modern airport, I applied for an AT&T calling card and put it into my mobile phone to replace it. Then I called the taxi hotline. This series of tricky operations all show that this young Chinese is not the first time to come to the United States. This made many black car drivers who gathered outside the airport waiting for the fat sheep couldn't help but curse at Bai Chi. The destination of the taxi is neither a hotel nor some consulting services. It's a rental car shop. Although Yeqing's reason was made up, it was not a friend out of nothing. I had taken a taxi with an American friend before, and the high price almost scared Yeqing, who had not yet left the stage of financial freedom in the supermarket, with a heart attack. After returning to China, the application for an international driver's license was completed. Anyway, TERP is free. The international driver's license, which is processed with the idea of making money without spending money, comes in handy today. Driving a rented Audi A5, I went to the hotel to put away my luggage. By the way, I dug out the suitcase and put on an unopened suit for myself. At that moment, he looked at the beautiful room of the Sheraton Hotel, and then looked at himself in the mirror in his suit. And the car keys on the table. Yeqing had a dreamy feeling. Is it a success? Or grow up? Looking at the national fashion clothes scattered on the bed, Yeqing smiled. Grab the keys, and the room card, and go downstairs. As the saying goes, there is no turning back when you open a bow. You are already standing here at the moment, so let's move forward bravely. In America, money is everything. This sentence is the truth. Just 2 hours later, a corporate consulting firm in Glendale was in the living room. Ye Qing, who was in a suit, also sat next to two people in suits and leather shoes. On the table in front of him were 3 cups of fragrant coffee. And all of this is naturally derived from a magic called sprinkling coins. Cough, Mr. Ye. We have understood your needs. It is not difficult to find a shop in Los Angeles for a gun shop within 15 days. We can complete the business project declaration and tax declaration. But I am more the concern is whether you can get a federal gun license. A middle-aged man sitting opposite Ye Qing said with a smile. Don't get me wrong, I'm just out of personal concern. After all, without a federal gun license, Mr. Ye's shop would not be able to operate either. It's our company's purpose to serve the interests of our customers. Lawyer Horn, what do you think? Is it difficult to get this license? Ye Qing heard the words and turned to look at another middle-aged man beside him. To be honest, according to Mr. Ye's current conditions, it is impossible to apply. Because the minimum age limit for applying for this certificate is 21 years old, and you are only 20 years old. Lawyer Horn's words instantly made Ye Qing's heart feel half cold. So, is this mission doomed to fail? However, this is not without solutions. Please forgive my next question, it may be a little personal. How much money do you have in your account now? There are probably more than $900,000 left. Do you have any questions? Airfare, hotel, car rental, plus the service fee of hiring a lawyer Horn for 1 month and expedited processing of related documents is $20,000. Ye Qing very Chenken reported the amount of his balance. Oh, thank God. That's really good news. When Lawyer Horn heard about Ye Qing's account balance, his face brightened. To be honest, since 2008, the economic environment in the United States has not been very good. So as long as you have more than $800,000 and spend them in the United States, then the immigration officials will welcome you to the United States. It's our chance, for example, to change your age a little. Change of nationality? Ye Qing frowned when she heard this. As a keyboard warrior on the internet, Ye Qing really did not dare to call himself a patriotic youth in the first 20 years. After all, he didn't do anything for the country, but he suddenly had to change his nationality. Ye Qing had an indescribable feeling in his heart. What? Mr. Ye doesn't like America. Lawyer Horn keenly grasped the change in Ye Qing's expression and asked in a tactful tone. At the same time, I can't help but feel a little surprised, as a practicing lawyer of a first-class law firm in Los Angeles. Ye Qing was not the first Chinese client he received. Although the gun shop Ye Qing wanted to invest in was a bit unusual among the Chinese. But in Horn's mind, Ye Qing is no different from other Chinese clients who want to apply for investment immigration and get American green cards. I can't talk about like or dislike. It's just a little reluctant. Of course, Lawyer Horn. If I change my nationality, what effect will it have on me? Ye Qing was not completely unprepared for such a hurry to travel from China to the United States. However, according to the information searched on the internet, it is completely possible for foreigners to open gun shops in the United States. But unfortunately, he was actually stuck because of his age limit. As for the impact of changing nationality, Ye Qing is not clear. Oh, it doesn't matter much. What should I say? It's just that Mr. Ye will become an American in the future. And the United States is a country of immigrants, so I don't think it's difficult to adapt to the tolerance of the people. And also enjoy the relevant benefits provided by the US government to the public, such as medical care, insurance, etc. Thinking about the epidemic not long ago, Lawyer Horn couldn't help but pouted to show his disdain for this remark. However, the focus is still on the content of the second half. Lawyer Horn did not struggle too much on this point. And in your original country, Mr. Ye can also apply for a passport and a visa to go back to China to visit relatives. There is almost no precedent for Chinese people to be refused visas on entry to China. Okay, what do I need to do then? Speaking of which, Yeching has a slight balance between changing nationality and completing system tasks. Easily made a self-determination. Anyway, it's not a problem to go back to China to visit relatives, but if you don't change your nationality in the future, in order to complete the system tasks, I will most likely stay abroad for a long time. If this is the case, change will change. It's very simple. Wait for me to go to the bank with you to print the asset certificate, and then leave the rest to us. Another very important point is that you are in a hurry, so you have to pay extra. After hearing what Lawyer Horn said, Yeching shrugged. He took out his mobile phone with a blank face, and neatly transferred the $5,000 to the account designated by Lawyer Horn. Haha, I think Mr. Ye has gotten used to the way an American does things. Now that Lawyer Horn is sure to handle the issue of federal gun licenses, then it's time for us to do our part. McCann, an account manager at a corporate consulting firm, said with a smile. And this smile is definitely sincere. Because only Yeching has dealt with the issue of federal gun licenses, then there will be a place for them to make money. First of all, I want to ask Mr. Ye, what are the requirements for the store? It's just a simple gun store. Do you need an outdoor shooting range, and the size of the range? I would like to ask how the general store rent in Los Angeles is. After all, no matter what I think, I have to consider the meaning of US dollars. Yeching took a sip of coffee, which was about the same quality as Father Seeing. It is very doubtful that these people went downstairs to buy it. Of course, Los Angeles is the second largest city in the United States, and the rent of stores is not low. Fortunately, Amazon and eBay are very generous. Under the impact of e-commerce, the rent of brick-and-mortar stores cannot be considered high. McCann smiled and nodded, expressing his understanding of Yeching's concerns. At the same time, he also expressed his views. If you want to build an outdoor shooting range, the area will not be too small, so shops in the urban area do not need to be considered for the time being. If it is in the suburbs, the part near the beach will undoubtedly have high traffic. Here, I personally recommend the store in the Torrance area. Yeching, who had seen the map of Los Angeles before coming here, nodded understandingly. On the west side of downtown Los Angeles by the sea, counting from top to bottom, Santa Monica Beach, Inglewood, Torrance, and at the bottom Long Beach. Needless to say, Santa Monica is too famous, so the rent will not be too low. Inglewood is also the location of Los Angeles International Airport. Thanks to the passenger throughput of Los Angeles Airport, a large business circle has also been formed around the airport. Thinking about it this way, only the Torrance area is more suitable for me. Okay, the rent in the Torrance area, I personally estimate $20,000 to $30,000 a month. It's enough to bring you an outdoor shooting range that can be used to shoot sniper rifles. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. After seeing Yeching's expression, McCann, who was good at observing words and expressions, said to himself. In addition, to help you contact the gun supplier and get a reasonable price, you only need to pay $5,000. After the communication is completed, we will send the purchase price list to your email. If the price is higher than the one you found online, then we will compensate you twice as much. The service fee for finding a store is charged at 20% of the initial transaction amount. If you have no problem, you can now pay the deposit and the service fee for contacting the gun supplier, totaling $10,000. She took out her phone and made a payment. Yeching finished the work neatly, while McCann said his farewell with a smile on the grounds that he would start work immediately after receiving the prompt from the back office clerk. I have to say, with this kind of money in hand, I have a style in the world, very American. However, Yeching didn't care about this. After all, there were still a lot of things to be done between him and Lawyer Horn. In addition to printing asset certificates, business item declarations are also required. In the United States, the declared business items are different from those in the country. For each category you add, you will need to pay an application fee for that category. In order to avoid later troubles, Yeching naturally hopes to be as complete and inclusive as possible when applying for business projects at this time. What's more, he had a whim just now. By the way, Lawyer Horn, I don't know if my shop can apply for the business qualification of a tavern at the same time? In addition to selling firearms, can it be operated as a tavern in normal times? Lawyer Horn stared at Yeching and said very seriously. You have to pay more. Half a month passed in a flash. With the help of the powerful forbidden spell level magic shape coin, Yeching's shop was successfully acquired. Standing outside the door of the shop, watching the master worker hang the shop sign of extreme force on the door lintel, Yeching couldn't help but feel as if he was in a different world. A month, oh no, the self 20 days ago probably never imagined that I could have such a wonderful time during this time. Not only did he change his nationality, he became a banana man. And still on the other side of the ocean, in Los Angeles, where he is unfamiliar, has a store of his own. In addition to going through the shop-related procedures in the past 20 days, Yeching also got his own gun photos. In the United States, applying for a gun license is not complicated, even foreigners can apply. It is only required to live for more than half a year and have no criminal record and mental health history. And this age requirement is naturally not a problem for Yeching, who has already obtained a green card. In order to apply for this gun license, Yeching also exchanged guns from the system for the first time. An AR-15 that was almost rotten on the street in America. However, it is worth mentioning that the logo above the AR-15 trigger is not Colt. It is a logo designed by Yeching imitating the Italian saber brand Extreme Force. And as soon as he started, Yeching felt something was wrong. The weight is too light. Although in the age of AR-15, this gun was very light compared to contemporary firearms. But at the moment, small caliber rifles have become mainstream, and the weight of this gun is no longer an advantage. The AR-15 in Yeching's hands, with a standard 20-inch barrel, normally weighs around 8.5 pounds. That is 3.9 kilograms, which is close to the weight of 8 caddies. But now, Yeching felt that the weapon in his hand could hold up to 4 kilograms. In addition, in order to exchange this AR-15, Yeching paid a full $1,600. You know, normally, an AR-15, about $850, can buy a brand new gun that has not been wiped off the gun oil. Yeching, who had a premonition that the system was an extraordinary product, stopped outside the store and looked at it for a while, then got up and walked into the store that was being renovated. Grab the gun bag with this system weapon and walk towards the back door. The construction of the outdoor shooting range is relatively simple. After the target track is divided, the steel target is set, and a small is built with sand behind the target track to prevent stray bullets from hurting people. Just when applying for a gun license, Yeching, who had practiced guns several times with the coach of the shooting club, had no idea of challenging precision shooting. Move the distant target to a distance of about 50 meters through the electronically controlled slide rail at the bottom of the shooting range. With satisfaction, Yeching took out a magazine that was already full of 20 bullets and stuffed it into the gun. Pulling the tippy bolt of the new AR-15, Yeching took aim and pulled the trigger decisively. As the gunpowder in the cartridge case was detonated by the primer, a flash of fire flashed from the muzzle of the gun. Immediately afterwards, a light force hit Yeching's shoulder. This is so wrong. This recoil force is simply too small. No matter how small caliber rifles try to reduce the recoil of guns, they cannot change the principle of gunpowder gun shooting. A sufficient amount of gunpowder burns in an airtight chamber and explodes. The kinetic energy generated should not be so small, as if it was lightly bumped by someone. With just one bullet, Yeching immediately turned off the insurance. He put the gun in front of him and looked at it intently. No matter how you look at it, it's all AR-15, right? This early firearm designed by Mr. Stoner used 0.222 Remington SPL rifle ammunition when it was finalized. After the NATO standard 5.56*45 mm ammunition standard was finalized, this ammunition was used. However, on a proportional basis, the 0.223 rifle bullet has been improved compared to the original standard. In addition, AR-15 can penetrate a certain American standard steel helmet at a distance of 500 yards, or the penetration performance of 3.4 mm steel plate. It shouldn't be like this, should it? After thinking about it, Yeching had no choice but to attribute all this to the system. No way, who made this system feel too low? Compared with other systems that can still argue with the host and sell cute, Yeching seems to be an autistic child. I usually don't put one fart, and the entire system interface looks like a game panel. No, it's more than a game panel. Except for sending tasks and purchasing panels, there is not even a hint or an operation guide. If it is a game, the dog planning will definitely be the first to be pulled out and whip the corpse. Thinking of this, Yeching couldn't help but want to live. I remember watching a video on the internet before, saying that the AK-47 has a rough skin and thick flesh. It can be buried in the sand for 2 or 3 days, and it will chug when you take it out. The original AR-15 is definitely not able to do this. Forcibly dying will only make you lose your hand. But what about the system in hand? People don't want to kill young people, this idea came out. Yeching suddenly lost the thought of trying the gun again. While unloading the magazine, he returned to the store, asked the decorator to borrow a shovel against his shoulder, held the rifle in his left hand, and walked all the way to the end of the shooting range. The outdoor shooting range that can meet the requirements of accurate shooting, the length of the target track is more than 1,200 meters. It is equivalent to running 3 laps on a domestic school playground. Yeching, who was carrying left and right, walked to the back of the shooting range. Yuuganshu www.yuuganshu.com was not in a hurry to dig. Instead, he stood on the hillside looking at the sea behind and took a break. This nearby beach location is 2 blocks west of South Catalan Avenue, already a part of Torrance County. Although there is only one road winding around the seaside in front of the shop, it looks a bit desolate. But cross this road, go east, but 2 blocks away. There are a large number of apartment houses, as well as a variety of restaurants. Further east, there are various sports venues, including tennis, golf, and American favorite football and so on. And this is also the main reason why Yeching would rather pay a little more and choose the shop here. After all, shooting is also a sport. If you go north along the store, there are some seaside resorts. A little further north, is the famous Manhattan Beach, as well as the yacht club and so on. Although Yeching, who was almost at the bottom of his pocket, yearned for it, so far, he has never been there once. Such a description, I believe many people can understand. Although this area is not the wealthy area of Los Angeles, it is the sports, leisure, and entertainment center of Los Angeles. Thinking of this, think about the weirdness of the system weapon. Although the current system only allows him the authority of semi-automatic rifles and pistols, Yeching still has full confidence and longing for the future. After resting for a while and recovering some physical strength, Yeching began to dig a hole. It doesn't need to be deep enough to bury a gun, so it doesn't take long. Put the AR-15 on its back and put it in the pit, then dig and bury it. Yeching's heart was not disturbed, and he even wanted to play a Suana. I just hope that the day it is unearthed. Don't say to yourself, your hand is gone. With the passage of time, the interior decoration of the store also tends to be perfected step by step. With the business model of the tavern and gun shop, even the decoration workers are confused. But money can make a ghost run the mill, as long as Yeching pays enough, they can just pretend. Yeching's shop, like its name, seems a bit extreme. Cyberpunk seems to be full of metal technology style decoration style, coupled with blue-based ambient lighting. Not only does it not look like a gun store, but it doesn't even look like a traditional American pub. Yeqing did not design the showcases used to display guns as in the general store, where all the weapons were placed in different categories. Instead, it is placed on the walls around the store and under the ground covered with tempered glass, every other position. The firearms are placed under the ground. Due to the difficulty of dismantling the tempered glass floor, most of the guns placed inside are some bad street guns. It's very common, and many Americans have it in their homes. Below these guns is a layer of fine white sand, with floor lamps on both sides of the same atmosphere. A shop of this style is more like a pub than a gun shop, where the gun seems to be just a decoration. But it is precisely this practice of locking all the guns in the gun shop in tempered glass. When the BATF inspectors came to inspect the door, they could write a qualified reply with one eye closed in the face of the US dollar. Speaking of which, I have to mention the institution BATF. Bureau of Firearms and Explosives, Bureau of Tobacco, Alcohol, Firearms and Explosives. Yes, you heard that right. In the United States, the agency that manages gun management also manages alcohol and tobacco sales. This was one of the fundamental reasons for Yeqing's whims at that time. Anyway, Lawyer Horn is going to make an article on the gun license, so why not just get the tobacco and alcohol license together? According to the bastard's ass stipulation, if the same store applies for a gun license, it cannot apply for a tobacco and alcohol license. The same US dollar opened the way, and then divided the gun shop into two and applied for two business licenses, and then applied for two kinds of licenses respectively. This opportunistic approach was considered a success the moment BATF staff signed their names on the pre-opening checklist today. As for the later stage, will there be any problems? Yeqing was not worried. In just over a month, he has thoroughly figured out the way these Americans do things. As long as there are dollars, anything can be said. As a systematic opener, Yeqing believes that he will not lack it in the future. Smiling and sending the BATF staff away, Yeqing took out a pack of cigarettes in his pocket. Before igniting myself, I scattered the decoration workers and masters. This kind of Chinese style has undoubtedly won the hearts of these American workers. Everyone laughed and thanked the boss. After a few polite words, Yeqing said goodbye and went upstairs. The second floor of the store is much smaller than the first floor, which is not suitable for business use, so Yeqing simply changed it into an accommodation and living area. Except for one room for himself, there are 4 remaining rooms, which Yeqing plans to use as the staff dormitory. But now, Yeqing, who had returned to the dormitory, was busy recruiting staff. Due to Yeqing's coquettish operation, the number of employees needed in the store has also skyrocketed. First of all, the pub needs at least 1 bartender and 1 waiter. The gun shop, on the other side of the shooting range, needs security guards and shooting instructors. The shop has not yet opened, and Yeqing, who is not very wealthy, only posted the minimum number of recruitment information on the internet. That is, there is only 1 person for each position. After finishing the work, Yeqing went straight to the bed and lay down. Then open your mind, the virtual training ground for novice task rewards. In the next instant, a white light flashed around. Then Yeqing appeared in a vast white space. Please select a training item and pay the relevant fees. There is a line of large characters in front of him, plus icons representing various items. Yeqing, who would come here to strengthen his personal abilities every day when he has nothing to do, has long since noticed that, and said directly. Continue the professional training of bartenders. The progress of professional training for bartenders is 12/100, $100 per hour, and the part less than 1 hour is billed as 1 hour. I wish you a happy study. Another line of words flashed by, and then the white space around it suddenly turned into a retro bar with a warm yellow light. Behind the bar, there are all kinds of drinks, syrups, and all kinds of glasses, decorations and so on needed to make cocktails. If the AR-15 produced by the system gave Yeqing confidence, then this virtual training ground gave Yeqing confidence. Including the teaching of various skills that the world has or even does not have, all can be learned under the guidance of the system for only $100 per hour. And the most powerful thing is that the flow of time in the training ground is lower than the outside world. This also means that Yeqing will have more time to study. But it is more uncomfortable. In this training ground, the guidance of the system is not completed by the system elves or tutors. But just like a novice guide in the game, UU reading www.uuganshu.com directly points out the target in a highlighted way. When physical movement is required, a shimmering guideline will appear in midair. To do the action, Yeqing needs to move according to the guiding line. Once there is a deviation or failure, it will be judged as failure, and then the cycle will be repeated. And this is also the main reason why Yeqing has practiced for more than 60 hours in the low-flow space, and the bartending progress is still maintained at 12%. The conscience of heaven and earth, the bottle shaking, bottle opening, and bottle rotation of fancy bartenders must follow the guiding line stipulated by the system, which is simply inhuman. In addition to bartending, Yeqing also chose 3 training courses: firearm modification, pistol, and rifle shooting. Previously, when a project was not going well, Yeqing would switch to another project to practice. People are cool, but until today, no one can be regarded as a teacher. Yeqing didn't realize it until the recruitment information was just posted online. I am no longer the college student I was a month ago. In this strange city, I don't think I am living comfortably now. But once you have no money, what will you face? Missions fail, systems disengage, employees are fired. You will have nothing to yourself. It is often said that from frugality to luxury is easy, and from luxury to frugality is difficult. After spending more than a month, Yeqing already fell in love with this feeling. And if you don't want to fail, the first step to attract customers is the tavern. Near the shop, only 5 or 6 kilometers away, there is a coffee bar called Beach. This kind of small-scale consumption place is undoubtedly easier to attract nearby people than gun stores. Yeqing, who wanted to understand this, turned his wrist, and the right wrist that was holding a bottle of vodka turned outwards, and threw the bottle in an arc to his left hand. Then, with a pop, the wine bottle fell to the ground and shattered. Bottle Terminator Ching, who shattered an unknown number of bottles in the virtual space, finally gave up on continuing the pitiful wine bottle. And the reason for this is not because of the kindness, but because the workers are off work. Watching the bartender's vocational training progress from 12 to 15 in the virtual training ground, Yeqing took out the car keys from the bar while complaining that the Silver Eagle Federation would never work overtime. The red Audi A5 had already been returned, and Yeqing's current car was a Dodge pickup that was parked in the open space next to the store. Don't expect a second-hand car bought for $3,000 to be good. It can be used and it can be pulled. After closing the door of the store and getting on his beloved pickup, he ran all the way to the supermarket 3 blocks away. Speaking of the supermarket, another question that made Yeqing very unhappy came. In the Silver Eagle Federation, the supermarket is closed at night and closed on weekends. And today is Friday. Or evening. In time for the supermarket to close, Yeqing held a craft paper bag in his left hand, which was full of bread, jerky and other cooked food, and was carrying a large bag in his right hand. Vegetables, raw meat, and milk. These things are Yeqing's rations for the next few days. This is not Yeqing's conscience discovery, knowing that he should be diligent and thrifty. But there are several restaurants around the store. In addition to Japanese food, it is Thai food, either bland and a little tasteful, or raw eel, salmon, and various fish. "Sir, can you give me a cigarette?" Just when Yeqing opened the passenger car door and was throwing large and small bags into the car, suddenly, a crisp voice came from behind. A small mushroom head, with a decorative collar on his neck, and two long slender legs exposed under a pair of short shorts. Of course, this length is for the height of the little girl. Objectively speaking, the little girl whose head just reached Yeching's chest looked like she was 14 years old. What interests him is that the girl in front of him is almost the same as the little girl in the Masai movie. Combined with this move to smoke. Sorry, according to the law, we can't give minors cigarettes. Yeching rightfully refused. He is not a pedophile. I have no interest in this kind of little sister-like character, and this is the Silver Eagle Federation, a place I don't know well. Maybe if you give yourself a cigarette, you will get into trouble if you turn your head. Although Yeching has a gun license, the first time he applies for a gun license, he can only hold a long gun. It must be 1 year before you can apply for a concealed gun license and carry a handgun with you. Please, please. Just a cigarette, and I'm 17 years old, and I'll be an adult in 4 months. The little girl stared at Yeching with a pitiful gaze. Looking at her like this, it seems that she has been guarding the door of the supermarket all afternoon, and she has never met a person who gave her cigarettes. No. I'm 1 day away from being an adult, and I'm also a minor. Maybe this is more suitable for you. After Yeching finished speaking, she turned around and took out a piece of bread and a bottle of milk from the car and handed it to the girl. Then, ignoring the grateful pleading of the little girl, she got into the car as if running away, and fled. The residential areas around the store are mostly apartment buildings. In Silver Eagle Commonwealth, apartments are generally reserved for low-income groups. Even a middle-class person can qualify for a loan to buy a small villa in the suburbs. In the Silver Eagle Federation, which believes in elite education, it is easy for low-income groups to infer their education level. If life is unsatisfactory and education is not valued, it is not normal to appear like a little girl who is a little girl. Yeching turned around and forgot about it. After all, there were so many apartments near the store. In addition, his shop has the function of a tavern, so he will not encounter such people less often in the future. Perhaps in the eyes of others, the guy who sells guns and arms is definitely not a good citizen who obeys the law. But for Yeching, at least for now, he still needs to abide by the rules. When he got home, he cooked a steak for himself, and then went to the refrigerator to find a bottle of stout beer. This was Yeching's dinner. Even though the combination of steak and beer was a bit weird, it was still a lot more extravagant than the 15 yuan barbecue rice near the university. After eating and drinking, throw the plate into the automatic dishwasher. Yeching went back to his room, opened the virtual training ground, and continued his career of smashing wine bottles. In Silver Eagle Federation, not only supermarkets, but also decoration workers rest on weekends. The work that took half a month to complete in China, here, in the most half month, is only a rough outline. Yeching made a rough estimate. According to this progress, it will take at least a week for the decoration to be completed. To be precise, more than a week, because these workers have to rest on weekends and never work overtime. With the passage of time, Yeching, who was immersed in the virtual training ground and dropped tens of thousands of wine bottles, finally pushed the progress to 68. When leaving the virtual training ground, Yeching also watched some videos of bartenders on the internet. In comparison, Yeching felt that it should be enough. To say that the level of the championship is too exaggerated, but it is not a big problem to take the 3rd place in the competition and the 2nd place. At this point, Yeching had no idea of continuing to practice. reading www.yukanshu. After all, Com's main job is to sell guns, and the bartending thing is just to keep the shop from falling at the beginning. The research is in depth, and the money is spent. First, I took a shower in the upstairs bathroom and changed into clean clothes. Yeching then went downstairs and scattered the smoke for the decoration workers, while chatting with them, while observing the progress of the decoration. The bar part has been completely completed, the refrigerator at the bottom of the bar, and the wine rack at the back are also installed in place. The floor and wall decoration of the hall has also been completed. Next, you only need to add some ambient lights, spotlights, and audio equipment, and then put the tables and chairs in place, and you can start business. Seeing this, Yeching turned around and walked into the warehouse behind. Unpack one of each type of guns that were delivered 2 days ago. Then take out the towels that have been prepared from the bathroom for guests on the first floor, connect a basin of clean water, prepare to wipe off the gun oil, and then hang the guns in the glass on the wall and put them away. According to Yeching's plan, the guns placed in the walls were relatively expensive and rare. FN Scar SC, MK20SSR, Chetak, Intervention, Companies M200, AI. Precision, Companies A series sniper rifles, etc. Yeching could only see the word gun in film and television dramas before. Line up. One by one waiting for Yeching's Lin Xing, wipe the gun. This feeling of power and violent aesthetics is directly lethal to men. Even though Ye Qingjin had been back with these guns for a few days, he was still short of breath at the moment. Excuse me, is anyone here? I'm Yokoichi Otani from the Otani Sushi restaurant in front of me. I heard that a new neighbor is coming, so I took the liberty to visit. This is some of my signature dishes, please try it. Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Otani. Would you like to have a drink? Apart from being the boss, I'm also a bartender. While sending the off-duty workers and masters out of the door, Yeching welcomed Daegyu Henji, who was outside the door, into the store. It has been almost 2 months since I came to Silver Eagle Federation, and this is the first person in the vicinity to express kindness to myself. For Yeching, who had not yet broken away from the students' thinking, it was as exciting as a lonely person who was rejected by the group suddenly had someone willing to make friends with him. Of course, if he didn't bring Japanese material, perhaps the excitement would have been a little more. Oh, is it? Then I'm welcome, Mr. Yet. After receiving an affirmative answer from Otani Yokoichi, Yeching walked into the bar with a smile. While chatting with the other party, I took out the shaker. Yeching's movement of holding the pot is fancy but very cool. The palms of Shuekehu and Yeching were like Cold War lovers who were constantly arguing, and they always maintained an elusive distance. Every time it looked, the next second seemed like the shake kettle was about to fall to the ground with a bang. 2 glasses of cool mojito were quickly brought to the bar, and next to the cocktails were snacks brought by Yokoichi Otani. Except for the sushi, which is normal in Yeching's eyes, the rest of the wasabi octopus, sashimi, etc., in Yeching's opinion, is a bit anti-human. Yejun, originally there were no pubs and no gun shops in our area. Now you're here, and the vacancy in our area will be filled. Aunt Mary, who is next to me, also wants to meet you, but she has thin skin, ha ha ha. Both are owners of nearby shops. When we met for the first time, the content we could talk about naturally couldn't escape this area. Hey, it's my fault. It's been almost 2 months since I've been here, and I didn't even think of visiting your neighbors. Daegyu, what do you think? You'll be at my store in 2 days, let's get together. Of course, I'm responsible for the drinks, and you need to prepare the food. After all, my cooking skills are really not that good. Okay, I'll start contacting them after I go back. In terms of time, how about the night after tomorrow? When Daegyu Henji heard Yeching's reply, his expression brightened. But immediately, as if remembering something, Daegyu Henji suddenly changed his words. Oh, yes. Yejun, there is one more thing I think I need to remind you first. Speaking. Yeching, who was stuffing a piece of sushi into his mouth, said vaguely. However, Daegyu didn't care about Yeching's rudeness and continued. You know, we're not here in Long Beach, or Manhattan. So there's a little bit of a flaw in the law and order, but don't worry too much. At that time, most of the troublemakers will be students from nearby community colleges who don't study well. But there are also a small number of troublemakers who are indeed gang members. Hearing Daegyo Henji's words, Yeching frowned. I still remember hearing about my uncle who was in business when I was a child, and seemed to have mentioned this kind of thing. And when it comes to the most annoying thing for small business people, this kind of gang members is definitely at the top of the list. Hard-earned money, if you give them once, there will be countless times to pay their own labor and sweat. But if you don't give it, don't talk about those violent behaviors, just making trouble for you can make your business impossible. Haha, Yejun, don't worry too much. Although this is not a wealthy area, the sports fields in the east are indeed places where the wealthy people often come, so the speed of the police rushing over is not slow. Besides, before the police come, and we'll help you too. Besides, you're a gun shop, and if they dare to do it in your shop, then under federal law, you'll have no problem shooting them. Seeing Yeching frowning, Daegyo Hung smiled. There is a sense of pleasure in the tone that the goal is about to be reached. Of course, I personally don't recommend doing this unless it's an emergency. In that case, it's easy to offend these gang members to death. Let's go out to do business in order to seek money. Don't you have a saying, be kind to make money? Well, thank you Mr. Otani for the reminder. I can understand what you mean, but what you just said, come and help me? What do you mean? Considering Daegyo Henji's ancestral home, Yeching couldn't help but have ghost thoughts like the three-member group and the Black Dragon Society. The first time we met, God knows what roads are on the other side. Haha, it's us small businessmen nearby. In order to deal with the harassment of these gangs, we shop owners spontaneously unite. Once someone is looking for trouble, before the police arrive, we will form a group and confront them until the police arrive. The purpose of coming here today is to invite you to join us. Daegyo Henji said as he pushed a plate of sushi on his side to Yeching. He could already see that Yeching didn't touch the fishy sashimi and the like at all. Of course, it's not dangerous. We're not gang members, and we don't go out and grab turf or anything. It's not 30 years ago, when gang members are rampant. You join us, and they will have concerns when they come to you. People who know our film are not easy to mess with. Likewise, it is also good for us. After all, you are a gun shop, and you will make them more afraid of you if you join us. Having said this, Yeching finally understood. Let me just say, even if there is such a custom of visiting new neighbors in Daegu's hometown, this is the Silver Eagle Federation after all. In such a place where the folk customs of Happy Silver Eagle tip, shooting every day are simple and people are elegant and easygoing. Where will the original customs be preserved? Perhaps a little, but with other purposes, indeed more crucial motives. If it's as you said, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com, then I'm naturally willing to join. But I've only been here, and I'm not familiar with the situation here. Can you introduce me? Yeching did not rush to agree, it was the first time they met after all. If the other party is a gang member, and then he agrees in a confused way, and then gets involved in some gang fights, then it will be a lot of fun. Of course. There are three main forces in Los Santos, Lao Mo, Lao Black, and Lao Bai. Lao Mo's forces are concentrated in Inglewood, the black car drivers outside the airport, and the employees of major car washes, most of which are old the people of Mo. The Old Black is mainly concentrated in El Monte, bullying middle school students, or selling them some things that are prohibited by law. Daegyo Henji said and shrugged, as if he was very disdainful of these gang members. But think about the fact that the gang members in his hometown would go to fetch water and deliver meals for the elderly. Bullying middle school students is indeed a bit pricey. Yeching nodded understandingly and listened to the other party continue to speak. Lao Bai's organization is the loosest, and there are their people everywhere. There is not much to say. But generally speaking, these people are the dark side of this society. If you don't contact them, generally speaking, there will be nothing to do with them. Let's add Facebook. When you get to know us, I'm sure you'll be willing to join. After sending Kang En away after signing the labor contract, Yeching continued her interview. Originally, whether in film and television dramas or in my original impression, the interviewer seemed to be a simple and extraordinarily skinny job. But when I put it into practice, I found that it was not the case at all. There are over 100 people, all types and colors. No matter where you are, the quality of workers is uneven. It is undoubtedly difficult to find out the needs of the other party in a short conversation of at most half an hour. And the Silver Eagle Federation is not what some well-known people say, it is a group of high-quality people. In the Silver Eagle Federation, which implements an elite education system, the gap between the quality of the population is even more obvious. A tavern or a small gun shop basically don't want to recruit any elites. Even though USC was nearby, Yeching never expected to attract those students. Almost 90% of the applicants have at most only a high school degree. The remaining 10% are only from public community colleges. As a result, Yeching's headache can be imagined. Picking from left to right, Yeching chose a young man who had also just been discharged from the army as a security officer and also served as a warehouse manager. This young man named Harris has a dazzling golden hair and very three-dimensional facial features. Although Yeching didn't seem to admit it, the guy in front of him was much more handsome than him, and he didn't even lose to some stars. Originally, according to Yeching's ideas, people who were too good-looking were not considered to be recruited. After all, such people, generally speaking, are not very stable. But considering the identity of the other party who has just been discharged from the army, perhaps the efficient obedience developed in the army will make the guy in front of him different? The waiter was a black girl named Riley. Compared with ordinary black people, Layli looked a lot whiter. Yeching guessed that she should be a mixed race. Compared with ordinary black people, this girl is extraordinarily industrious, and even not like a black. She is a student at a nearby community college. She works in the school cafeteria at noon and finds Yeching here at night. Looking at the expectant look in the other party's eyes, Yeching chose to give the other party a chance. The bartender is a guy who has not seen a single one, or has a few applicants. But Yeching just looked at the other side's horrific shaking of the shaker and passed. After thinking about it, Yeching decided to go into battle in person. It's just that his working hours in a day will become extraordinarily long. From 10 o'clock in the morning, he needs to guard the store. Until 12 o'clock in the evening, the tavern closes to rest. But who makes himself the boss? Work hard and do it for yourself. Yeching hesitated for a moment, then made up his mind. Early the next morning, Yeching first sent notices to the 3 employees to start work the next day. Then go out to the printing shop to get the prepared menu, then go to the supermarket to buy things like detergent, and go back to the shop to prepare for a big cleaning. This is also the point that Yeching is quite unhappy about. In the Silver Eagle Federation, the employment relationship is very pure. Employees only need to complete the work content stipulated in the labor contract, and they have the right to refuse the rest of the additional content. Taking this into consideration, Yeching also had no idea of calling the staff over to help. After all, Riley, who looks the most honest, needs to attend classes during the day and has no time to come to the store. While thinking about these messy things, Yeching put on the apron she just bought. With longing for the future, Yeching began to mop the floor. "Hey, boss! I didn't bother you, did I?" The timeless jumper with thick eyebrows and big eyes. This obvious feature made Yeching, who was slightly blind to the European and American races, quickly recognize the identity of the person. "Hey, Khan! Why are you here? Is there anything wrong?" Looking at the clock above the bar, it's not yet 9 o'clock in the morning. I clearly informed the other party that I will officially go to work tomorrow. No, I think you have something to do now, boss. Do you need help? Although Kang En was asking a question, he ran to the bathroom on his own while he was talking. When I came out, there was already an extra rag in my hand. My wife is in the hospital bed during the day, and I have nothing to do. I think I will come to the store to see if there is anything I need help. In fact, I want to go out and have some fun, but unfortunately, I am a poor ghost now. Thanks, Khan. Although Yeching didn't quite understand the humor of the Commonwealth, but when Kong En appeared here at this time, Yeching's heart felt warm and at the same time he was quite proud. Look, this is my employee. Want some music? The sound in the store is pretty good. The two are not very familiar with each other, but they have initially established a tacit understanding. In order to prevent the cold atmosphere from destroying this rare tacit understanding in case he didn't know what to say, Yeching suggested. Of course, just let me see the taste of the little boss. Not caring about Kong En's little boss ridicule, Yeching put the mop next to the table and walked to the back of the bar. Open the music software and click on the playlist. Soon the cheerful tune of Chattahoochee resounded throughout the store. What's more, Khan's movement of wiping the table also swayed with the melody of the music. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. Someone to help, except to speed up the cleaning. Having someone to accompany you to talk also makes the boring work a lot easier. In the morning, the two talked a lot. Yeching found out that Kong En's son was a year younger than him and was still a student at USC. Also know Khan's previous work in the army and rank. Guns instructors and army commanding sergeants, it's no wonder Yeching felt that teaching this stuff seemed like a natural fit. The words of guidance are habitually spoken. Yeching also confessed to Khan the fact that she is only 20 years old this year, and that in her own country, she has not finished her university studies. While surprising Khan, he concealed the source of funds for his store in the Silver Eagle Federation. Fortunately, people in this place, if they are not close relatives, generally do not ask each other's income. In their words, everyone's income is someone else's personal privacy and is private. It is an invasion of privacy and impolite to ask questions or ask questions. In such an atmosphere, the two communicated very happily. Originally, Yeching needed a day's work alone, but it was done in half a day. At noon, Yeching ordered a pizza delivery. I plan to reward this highly motivated employee, but the efficiency of the Silver Eagle Federation's delivery once again shattered Yeching's 3 views. Just 3 blocks away, it took an hour and a half from Yeching's order to delivery. Looking at the already cold pizza in front of you, then look at the clock on the bar that points to 13:30. With Khan's laughter, the two quickly finished the pizza. In the afternoon, Kong was going back to the hospital to accompany his son. Yeching planned to go out for a walk. The two said goodbye to each other at the door of the store, and then parted ways. Except when I first came to Los Santos, I ran around outside for a while. From the store's business license and the opening of the virtual training ground, Yeching hardly ever went out. Looking at the opening tomorrow, I will have no chance to go out for a while in the future. After saying goodbye to Kong En, Yeching drove his little pickup and started wandering around the city with the feeling of going out to let the wind out. Los Santos doesn't say big or small. It's just that the city division of the Silver Eagle Federation is a little different from Yeching's hometown, and it was a little uncomfortable when he first arrived. But it's much easier to understand if you look at the small towns around Los Santos as a district. In addition to this, there is another thing that must be paid attention to when wandering in the cities of the Silver Eagle Federation. That is the block division, and the general block situation is fine. However, some neighborhoods that are divided by race and get together are generally not of the same kind, so it is best not to enter. Generally speaking, the Chinese community is relatively good. But ordinary blacks or whites won't set foot in it at all when they are fine, but if it is a black community, if you accidentally go in, run away. Before Yeching stayed in the store for a long time and didn't go out, there were some reasons why he was afraid of causing trouble. Through the internet, we can only roughly know that the black slum is in the west of Los Santos, but Yeching does not know the exact location. In the morning, Kong En only said one sentence after hearing Yeching's question. As long as you see Martin Luther Street, just avoid it. The street named after the civil rights leader has now become synonymous with fighting, extortion, and shooting. I have to say, very ironic. I roughly wandered around Los Santos. After watching a movie at Universal Studios in Holland, and after taking a few pictures and sending them to the circle of friends, Yeching returned to the store and went to bed early. The next morning, it officially opened for business. Perhaps the store opening in Chinatown will have the same tradition of placing flower baskets as in the hometown. But in the mixed neighborhood where Yeching is located, this habit is obviously not available. It was almost the same as usual. Yeching simply walked to the door and opened it. Then hang a "Openo" sign on the doorknob to be considered open. Yeching returned to the bar and turned on the music player. Then, turn on the lights in the store and turn on a few yellow spotlights to fill the corners that the warm sun outside the window cannot reach. The preparations for the opening are all complete. A store that has just opened, naturally can't expect a lot of customers. Sitting behind the bar, Yeching listened to soothing country music while taking out her mobile phone to scan Weibo, Twitter, or Instagram to pass the boring time. Watching funny videos, or watching the ball in a civilized manner, time flies by quickly. Soon it was 10 o'clock in the morning and Khan and Harris showed up outside the store on time. Yes, the staff dormitory Yeching prepared didn't come in handy at all, they all had their own accommodation. "Hey, good morning, boss. You open the door so early." The familiar Harris smiled and said hello to Yeching, who was sitting behind the bar, then took the badge to his chest. The so-called badges were nothing more than a few custom-made brooches with shop logos by Yeching. "Yes, I live upstairs. When I woke up in the morning, I had nothing to do, so I opened the door. Would you like a glass of water, too?" He also smiled and greeted his two employees. Yeching got up and poured 2 glasses of soda water with a peeled lemon, then put it on the table. "Wow! I have to say, boss, you are really a genius. Working in a gun shop, you can drink a refreshing lemon soda at any time. It's amazing. During work, as long as you don't touch alcoholic beverages, you can take the rest yourself. In addition, if there are guests or shooting students in the future, you can also ask them to have a drink. The same requirement, if you want to touch a gun, you must never touch a gun. Alcohol is allowed." Yeching shrugged, half-jokingly emphasizing her request. The pub itself is a whim, just hoping that the gun shop will not let the shop go bankrupt before it makes a profit. In terms of revenue, Yeching doesn't care. The employees can drink the alcohol, soda, or cows in the refrigerator if they want. It's just employee benefits. "Ha, don't worry. We will keep this in mind." "That's good, since you guys are here. Then I'll go to the back to practice guns. There are guests coming. If you think you can't figure it out, call me. It's still early, let alone a newly opened store. Just some old shops, there are not many customers in the morning." Yeching, who had been swiping his phone for 2 hours, also remembered to do some activity. According to the text teaching in the virtual training ground, the barrel of each gun has an optimal period of use. It takes a lot of bullets to grind the barrel to an optimal state. And Yeching's AR-15 hasn't fired 100 rounds so far. Clearly a far cry from the best of this gun. "Wait, I'll give you a target." Hearing that Yeching was going to the shooting range to play with guns, the young Harris quickly put down the hypo cup in his hand. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com hurriedly jumped off the high stool, looking like he couldn't wait. "Then I'll leave it to you, Khan." Yeching didn't have any objection to this either. With the more mature Kong En watching from the front, there would be no problem. After finishing speaking, Yeching carried the gun bag and Harris, who had just gone to the warehouse to get a telescope, walked towards the shooting range. AR-15? Boss, you actually chose such an old antique. Seeing what Yecheng took out from the gun bag, Harris was a little surprised. Today, when all kinds of FPS shooting games are popular, no matter which game it is, the M16 gun is the role of a younger brother. As a gun shop owner, there are SCAR, HK416 and other famous guns in the warehouse, so I actually touched this gun. Harris was surprised. Oh, by the way, M16 is the new name of AR-15 after it was purchased by the federal military. After all, I'm a beginner, you know, in my hometown. Guns are not something that ordinary people can touch. Yecheng took out the gun and stuffed the magazine. He explained with a smile. To tell the truth, it wasn't that Yecheng didn't like more modern firearms, but the weapons produced by the system, with their sky-high performance. I really don't know how to explain it. In the virtual training ground, Yecheng ordered a course on firearm modification. But just after the first class, Yecheng found that he could understand every word broadcast on the training ground, but he couldn't understand it together. What long-stroke piston, short-stroke piston, and so on. I only know its words, but I don't know its meaning. As a result, a large number of weapons with exaggerated performance appeared, and they could not make a reasonable explanation. Perhaps the only thing waiting for him is to be regarded as a terrorist or an extremist.